A low, keening drone of the Taipyeongso drifts through moonlit pines, as if the very winds in the temple courtyard carry echoes of distant spirits. Imagine for a breath the same hush that enveloped 18th century seers as they waited for visions to stir. What if those voices, once inked in looping characters on fragile Hanji scrolls, could be tuned to today's turbulent world, illuminating hidden tremors beneath our modern surface? In the heart of Joseon, Korea, shamans in crimson robes would sway before flickering lanterns, each rustle of their silk skirts a promise that the unseen was about to speak. Yet this is not a dusty relic. With global interest in Asian spiritual traditions soaring and Korean shamanism finally stepping into the spotlight, these oracles are more relevant than ever. As we pivot from ancient ritual to satellite surveillance, the so-called red tide, vision once a sanguine wave devouring coastlines, now whispers of strategic shifts in East Asian maritime power. The twin hawks portent, once a mythic omen circling a fractured land, resonates with today's complex trilateral tensions among China, Russia, and the United States. And the whispering bamboo, which once foretold upheavals in leadership and cosmic balance, finds its modern counterpart in the rise of AI-driven governance and the subtle power of cultural exports flooding global markets. These prophecies converge on 2025's horizon like distant drumbeats, building toward a crescendo that asks whether we will merely replay history or finally rewrite its course. So lean in close, listen for the bamboo's murmur, the hawk's distant cry, the tide's surge, and ask yourself, can voices from 3 centuries ago still guide us through the storms of tomorrow? A hush falls over the digital age as a new fascination awakens. From viral TikTok chants to Netflix's spotlight on arcane rites, Asian spiritual traditions are sweeping the globe with an almost magnetic pull, and yet, amid this tidal wave of curiosity, Korean shamanism remains a hidden gem, its whispers buried beneath layers of history. Imagine for a moment the secret chambers of the Joseon Dynasty, where Mudang in scarlet skirts pressed their palms to the earth, listening for the inaudible pulse of destiny. Today, that ancient gut feel, a forecast born of incense smoke and moonlit rituals, has never felt more alive. In an era defined by satellite imagery and real-time analytics, few have dared to overlay those age-old prophecies onto the shifting tectonics of modern geopolitics. No chart in a war room briefing maps the red tide of influence sweeping through East Asia. No policy paper references the twin hawks soaring above fracturing alliances. And certainly no think tank has decoded the whispering bamboo that once heralded seismic shifts in leadership, only to find its echo in the algorithms steering today's AI-powered governments. This is our moment to bridge centuries, to bring to light the dormant visions of 18th century oracles and watch them flare against the backdrop of 2025's economic rivalries, cultural flashpoints, and technological revolutions. The stage is set, the stakes are colossal, and the competition virtually non-existent. In a crowded content landscape where everyone chases the familiar, we stand alone at the frontier of the unknown, armed with scrolls, stories, and the promise that the deepest truths often speak in the softest tones. As we cast these shamanic forecasts into the glare of our modern world, we not only uncover the untapped power of Korean spirituality, but also ask, what other secrets lie waiting for those bold enough to listen? A soft drum roll of dawn drums hour. Entry into a realm where the ordinary and the otherworldly entwine. The Mudang, Joseon's revered shamans garbed in flowing scarlet robes, and the mansion, spirit mediums, whose very breath served as bridges between the human and the divine. In centuries past, these figures, often women of fierce intuition and iron resolve, would traverse the thin veil that separated earth from heaven, guided by nothing but a torrent of incense smoke and a steady beat of heartfelt prayers. Imagine standing in a mist-laden courtyard as the first pale light fractures the horizon, casting long shadows across stone altars stained by centuries of devotion. This was the stage for the blood-light ceremony, a ritual so visceral that witnesses claimed to see the air itself shimmer scarlet. At the height of ritual, the Mudang would press her palm to a ceremonial dagger, drawing a single drop of blood that, mingled with sacred water, glowed like embers against the pre-dawn gloom. As the crowd fell silent, the Manshin body trembling, in sublime surrender, would channel the voices of ancestral oracles, speaking prophecies in tongues half heard, half felt by those who listened with their souls. Today, as global curiosity and Korean spirituality surges fueled by viral live streams of modern Mudang, digital reconstructions of ancient sanctuaries, and even immersive VR experiences, reenacting that blood-light dawn, these age-old rites have gained startling new relevance. Contemporary analysts have begun to parse the shaman's visions alongside satellite data and social media sentiment analysis, seeking modern parallels in everything from cross-border corridors of influence to the unpredictable rhythms of global markets. Yet for all our algorithms and AI-driven analytics, the raw power of the Mudang's gut feel remains unmatched, an unquantifiable wisdom that speaks in symbols, metaphors, and the quiet resonance of a single drop of blood meeting still water. In a world racing toward ever faster trends and fleeting headlines, the oracles of Joseon whisper a sobering reminder that beneath every headline lies a deeper current, and only those who learn to listen truly listen, with their bodies and their hearts can hope to pierce the shroud of tomorrow's mysteries. A distant rumble echoes beneath the horizon as if the sea itself were gathering strength, and then, in a flash of scarlet foam, the red tide vision unfurls before your mind's eye, a blood-tinged wave roaring ashore with the inexorable force of destiny. In the hush that follows, Joseon's ancient oracles spoke of coastlines swallowed by this crimson swell, a prophecy etched in trembling hanji by shamans who saw beyond flesh and bone into the world's hidden currents. Their words, wrapped in metaphor and incense smoke, spoke not of literal floodwaters, but of an unstoppable surge economic ambition and military might pressing outward like a living thing, reshaping borders and loyalties in its path. Today, as we hurtle toward 2025, that same wave has taken a modern form. From the gleaming hulls of new Chinese aircraft carriers slicing through the South China Sea to the land bridge logistics of the Belt and Road corridors, the contours of trade have become strategic battlefronts. Satellite images track the expansion of deep-water ports in Gwadar and Hambantota, while clustered fleets shadow commercial vessels along the Malacca Strait, each anchored by the silent promise that whoever controls the tides holds the world in their grasp. Yet scholars caution against reading the prophecy through a purely military lens. In boardrooms from Shanghai to Singapore, the red tide manifests as capital flooding emerging markets, underwriting infrastructure projects. From Sri Lanka to Eastern Europe, it is a dual-edged force, at once the lifeblood of globalization and the harbinger of new dependencies, sweeping once autonomous nations into a current they cannot resist. Even in Tokyo, policy white papers now reference tidal diplomacy, while Jakarta's port authorities scramble to negotiate terms that hedge against being simply way stations for this crimson current. And beneath these measurable shifts, there lies an undercurrent of unease, a whisper. In the bamboo groves, that power unchecked can erode traditions as surely as salt water erodes stone. As the oracles foretold, the red tide does not ask permission. It breaks, it floods, it reshapes, and it leaves us with a stark question scarlet as its name. When the wave finally crashes upon our shores, will we stand firm like ancient stone temples, or be carried away by forces we once believed we controlled? A hush falls as twilight descends on a land cleaved by invisible fault lines, and from the gathering shadows emerge two colossal hawks, their ebony wings beating against the sky's dull sheen, an omen whispered by the Joseon shamans, who saw, in their circling a world on the brink of fracture. In those ancient scrolls, the birds were no mere beasts, but living metaphors for alliances stretched thin and loyalties tested. Today, their silhouette finds haunting resonance in the uneasy dance of Beijing, Moscow, and Washington. Imagine, if you will, the first hawk, its plumage, a deep russet sweeping westward over steppes, still scarred by conflict, where Russia's leaders, weary yet defiant, seek new footholds even as Western sanctions tighten like a noose. Just last month, satellites watched Kremlin envoys chart covert negotiations in Minsk, hoping to redraw the lines of engagement in Ukraine, while at home a mounting chorus questioned whether any peace below could truly quiet the hawk's call. Above this rumbling theater glides the second bird, argent and swift, its cry echoing over the South China Sea's shifting tides. In Beijing's marbled chambers, strategists pore over the latest Belt and Road agreements inked in Nairobi, calculating how infrastructure loans can bend sovereignty's silent wings, papering the globe with new dependencies. And yet, even as China projects its soft power through AI summits in Shanghai and cultural expos in Jakarta, the hawk's flight reminds us that every gift bears a hidden claw. Between these titans hovers the unseen hand of Washington, its presence felt in covert drone patrols and the subtle hum of cyber defenses raised along the Arctic Circle. In April 2025, the U.S. unveiled a multi-billion-dollar security pact with Nordic nations, a strategic gambit that fluttered alarms in both Moscow and Beijing. It is here, in the silent sky between the two hawks, that the greatest tension simmers. America's pledge of ironclad support to allies collides with the other bird's orbit, promising both collision and catalysis. As we stand on the cusp of 2025's midpoint, the Prophecies drama crescendos. Will these hawks lock talons in open conflict, or will their circling forge an uneasy détente that reshapes the rules of engagement? The oracles never spoke in certainties, only in symbols, and yet their warning rings clear. When giants wheel above a divided realm, the ground itself trembles. Listen, then, to the hush before the storm, to the beating wings you cannot see, and ask yourself, are we prepared for the moment when the sky finally splits? A sudden hush descends as you step into a moonlit bamboo grove, each slender stalk trembling as though alive, their leaves whispering secrets of a world poised on the brink of transformation. This was the oracle's vision, inscribed in looping, Henji by Joseon shamans, who believed that every rustle carried the voices of coming upheavals in leadership, in the very tools of power. In those ancient rites, the bamboo was both messenger and mirror, its hollow core a conduit for ancestral wisdom, its swaying a portent of revolutions yet to unfold. Today, as we cross the threshold into 2025, that whispering bamboo prophecy resonates with uncanny clarity. In Seoul's gleaming skyscrapers, the newly empowered National AI Ethics Commission established just this February debates legislation that could redefine the balance between surveillance and privacy, echoing the bamboo's warning that technology, like wind through the stalks, can shift without warning and reshape the contours of authority. Meanwhile, down the verdant slopes of Jeongju and across virtual stages worldwide, the soft power of Korean culture pulses stronger than ever. The latest BTS hologram tour sold out in minutes. K-drama exports now top streaming charts in Brazil. And Nigeria and hanbok-inspired fashion shows are redefining haute couture in Paris. Each cultural export, like a bamboo flute's sweet notes, carries with it a subtle influence that seeps into foreign hearts, bending perceptions and allegiances as deftly as wind bends the groves. Yet beneath this flourishing veneer lies the echo of the oracle's caution. What begins as a whisper can swell into a gale. In China's tech hubs, prototype, city brain AI systems are mapping citizen behavior with unprecedented precision, while the European Union's draft AI Act slated for final vote next month seeks to rein in these same forces, igniting fierce debate in Brussels and Beijing alike. Across tangled digital networks, the stakes of governance have never felt more urgent or more mysterious. The bamboo groves of Joseon did not promise simple outcomes. They spoke in riddles of powers, unpredictable dance. Now, as policymakers, innovators, and cultural ambassadors race toward 2025's horizon, the whispering bamboo urges us to listen to the soft sigh of algorithms learning to decide, to the lyrical sway of cultural exports reshaping global narratives, and to the still, small voice that reminds us, true upheaval often arrives not with a roar, but through the quiet stirrings in the spaces we least expect. Mist-shrouded memory stirs as the screen flickers to life. A lone Mudang, her scarlet robes billowing like living fire, traces a sinuous pattern in the dust, thick air of a 17th century Joseon courtyard. Incense smoke coils around her fingers as she invokes the ancestral oracles, each syllable resonant with the weight of centuries. Then cut sharply to the glare of neon lights in Seoul's digital district, where a drone's infrared lens sweeps over rows of humming servers at the Korea Advanced Institute of Science and Technology, their blinking diodes a modern equivalent of flickering lanterns guiding today's seekers through a labyrinth of data. In one breath, you're back among the timber pillars of Gyeongbokgung Palace, where ritual drums thunder in syncopated urgency. In the next, delegates in tailored suits exchange terse nods at the June 2025 G20 summit in Rio de Janeiro. Voices hushed as they negotiate climate accords that could tilt the balance of power and planetary survival on a knife's edge. Markets awaken in Bangkok's bustling Chathakek weekend bazaar, traders calling out prices with the same fervor that once imbued shamanic sellers of protective talismans, while sterile white coat researchers in Bizen's CRISPR labs coax genetic code into shapes no Joseon seer could have dared imagine. Each cut, each crossfade, entwines past and present with the precision of a master calligrapher. The rustle of hanbok silk against paved stones dissolves into the soft whir of electric cars gliding along Seoul's Han River Boulevard. The echo of wooden moktek, temple blocks, is swallowed by the click-clack of smartphones updating breaking news on shifting alliances in the East China Sea. Beneath these images, a lone voice cuts through the montage. Across 300 years, the pulse of power and prophecy still echoes. And suddenly, the script shifts from mere reflection to urgent question. Will we heed the lessons embedded in ancient rites? Or will we, in our rush toward innovation-augmented reality temple tours, AI-driven fortune-telling, live-streamed, gut-feel forecasts lose sight of the human heart that once beat in time with the spirit world? In July 2025, as trade ministers convene in Geneva to debate the fate of digital sovereignty, and as Seoul's first undersea quantum cable comes online, lighting up Pacific Rim economies like a constellation of promise, the old visions gain fresh resonance. The same instincts that guided Joseon, shamans amid courtly intrigue, now flicker in the algorithms steering global markets and the moral debates swirling around bioengineered life. This is no quaint historical reenactment, but a living tapestry woven from blood, light ceremonies, and fiber-optic pulses, from incense-laden night vigils and the sterile hum of cleanrooms. In the space between those frames, between the carved wooden pillars of yesterday and the gleaming steel towers of today, lies the unspoken truth. Prophecy is not frozen in time, but flows like water through every era, carving new channels in stone and silicon alike. And as the montage reaches its crescendo, you feel it in your bones. The past and present are not separate realms, but chapters in the same story, urging us to listen, to learn, and to navigate the rivers of power and mystery that run unbroken from Joseon's courtyards to our own electric cities. A hush settles as the three visions once separated by centuries and ritual, now converging on a single, electric moment in 2025 begin to pulse with uncanny synchronicity. The red tide, once a blood-foamed wave devouring ancient coastlines, now surges through freshly minted deep-water ports from Gwadar to Hambantota, driving an economic boom that leaves once quiet harbors humming day and night. The twin hawks, those colossal spirits circling divided skies, have manifested in the tense ballet of China's naval flotillas shadowing Russian supply lines in the Arctic, even as the United States inks a landmark security pact with Nordic nations, its ministers praising unshakable solidarity just weeks ago in Oslo. And the whispering bamboo, that soft susurration of imminent upheaval, carries through the corridors of power in Seoul's new AI Ethics Commission, where legislators grapple with live-streamed testimony on algorithmic bias, even as grassroots activists flood social feeds with calls for transparency. In this hypothetical scenario, yet alarmingly mirrored in the headlines of June 2025, the three currents meet in a single harbor town, transformed into a microcosm of tomorrow. There, gleaming cranes unload container ships carrying both industrial machinery and digital servers, while onshore, diplomats in tailored suits negotiate the terms of a trilateral infrastructure, fund against the backdrop of bamboo-lined parks, whose rustling leaves seem to whisper through the translators' earpieces, balance or be unmade. As night falls, laser beams trace arcs across the harbor, an AI-powered light show commissioned by a consortium of tech giants casting ghostly silhouettes of twin hawks against the water, their reflections fractured by the rising tide. In the control room, analysts map economic flows alongside satellite imagery, overlaying shipping lanes with real-time sentiment analysis from social platforms. They watch as public opinion shifts in hours, responding to every new policy brief, and every live-streamed protest, proving that technology's promise of order can equally sow seeds of discord. And beneath these high-definition charts and algorithmic forecasts lies an emotional undercurrent that no data point can capture, a question whispered by winds that have crossed oceans and centuries alike. Will history repeat? Or have we the wisdom to rewrite the script? It is a question that hangs between the cranes and the computers, between the sirens of progress and the footfalls of tradition, urging each listener to weigh the power surging through their own lives. As the night's final laser fades and the harbor slips into darkness, the legacy of ancient shamans and modern strategists alike beckons us to heed the lessons embedded in prophecy, to temper ambition with humility, and to decide whether we will remain passive spectators of forces we barely comprehend or become the authors of a new chapter, where the red tide brings renewal, not ruin. The twin hawks forge alliances rather than fractures, and the whispering bamboo guides us toward balance instead of upheaval. A hush falls as the final echoes of prophecy fade, leaving us standing at the edge of a world both ancient and astonishingly new, where the trembling bamboo of Joseon whispers through the algorithm shaping Asia's AI ethics debates, where the red tide surge manifests in June 2025's record-breaking freight volumes along the Belt and Road, and where the Twin Hawks' silent vigil plays out in last month's Arctic Security Pact between the U.S. and Nordic allies. What if these visions were never meant to seal our fate, but to sharpen our sight, to stir our agency in a future still unwritten? The shaman scrolls, inked with riddles and rendered in candlelight, invited listeners to look beyond mere events and discern the hidden currents beneath currents we feel today in every boardroom negotiation, every legislative chamber, every rooftop drone patrol mapping the skies. Now, as the screen fades to black, we turn the question to you. Which oracle stirred the deepest chord within your own story? Was it the crimson wave rolling through global markets, the pair of celestial birds circling fractured alliances, or a bamboo grove murmuring of soft revolutions in culture and code? How do you see 2025's chapters unfolding amid these converging tides? Share your voice below. Your reflection may be the next spark in this unfolding tapestry, weaving ancient intuition with modern insight. For destiny, it seems, is not a fixed horizon, but a canvas painted by all who dare to discern its shapes and speak its truths. In that quiet space between prophecy and possibility lies our greatest power, the choice to listen, to question, and to write what comes next. A lingering chime of temple bells drifts through the night air, each toll a pulse of ancient rhythm that seems to beckon us deeper into the hidden heart of Joseon's mysteries. And yet, this is only the beginning. Next week, we will step behind the curtain of trance itself, unearthing the secret instruments that once summoned ancestral voices in crimson-lit courtyards. The breath-haunted Taepyeongso reimagined in immersive VR performances. The wooden Mokdak whose hollow knocks now echo through AI-enhanced soundscapes. And the sacred drums whose patterns resonate in contemporary experimental music festivals from Seoul to Barcelona. We'll trace how these primal cadences shaped prophecy, how a single drumbeat could crack open the veil between worlds and explore cutting-edge research, like last month's UNESCO-backed reconstruction of ritual music that brings those echoes into our studios and headphones today. And as the bamboo groves rustle one last time on your screen, listen for the soft undercurrent of possibility. The same rhythms that guided Mudang through blood light ceremonies could soon guide us through the uncharted territories of our own futures. Until then, let the temple bells fade into your dreams, carrying you toward next week's voyage into the trance-forged corridors of time.